The 2025 NFL season is finally upon us, and as always, the league office wants to start with viewership at an all-time high by pitting the AFC's best against one another in Week 1. This may be a new season with changes to both teams, but for some of the players and most of the fans, this Ravens and Bills game is both an early test and a chance for payback for Baltimore. The outcome of this game won't change what happened in last year's divisional round, but starting out the season with a win over a conference rival, which may have playoff implications months from now, is a good way to start off the year. Both of these teams have made changes, but the foundations are still mostly the same on both sides. So what will this game look like? A close one-score game decided by a mistake or made play like in the playoffs from last year? Or a backyard stomping like it was in Week 4, where one team comes to play and the other is still stuck in preseason mode? My experience tells me it's going to be closer to the former with how good these teams are. But with Lamar Jackson under center for Baltimore, the latter is always a possibility. Let's get to it. Welcome in, everyone. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and today we're going to be discussing the Ravens Week 1 matchup against the Buffalo Bills. So go ahead and give the video a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and comment down below what you think is going to happen in this Week 1 matchup between these Titans. As with every new season, there are going to be questions about how these teams will perform right out of the gate, especially when these two teams started off their 2024 season so differently. So let's go through what I'm going to be looking for the Ravens on both offense and defense in this first game, starting out with the offense. Offensive diversity. Last year, the Ravens clearly didn't get Derrick Henry involved enough throughout the first couple of weeks, having him carry the ball only 13 times in the season opener, which was tied for the second lowest amount last season, and was also his lowest yard total as well. I don't know if he needs to get 27 carries, which was his highest from last year, but seeing what he did to the Bills last year with 24 carries, I think 20 should be the minimum in my opinion. The season opener versus the Chiefs last year was a weird game looking back at it now. Lamar threw the ball 41 times in that game, an amount that he would only surpass once more all season, and that was in an overtime win against Cincinnati. But Lamar also targeted Zay and likely a disproportionate amount in this game, with 10 and 12 targets respectively, while Bateman, Andrews, and Aguilar saw 8 targets combined. I know that Andrews was coming off of an injury, but he caught both targets that were thrown his way, and now likely is expected to miss at least a week or more. But with the additions of DeAndre Hopkins and the development of Devontae Walker, I expect a much more even distribution in this season opener. And how will this offensive line look in pass protection? We saw Faalele and Voorhees during the preseason, and we know that the starting 5 have been taking the first team reps all training camp, but how will they look early on against an improved Bills pass rush? Greg Rousseau and AJ Espinosa are still there, and even though Von Miller has left, the Bills have actually upgraded by signing Joey Bosa, the former Charger. Not to mention another piece that they've added in the draft with their third-round pick, defensive end Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. The bad news about all this is that the Ravens seemingly haven't fixed their offensive pre-snap penalty problems from last year. The good news is that if the Ravens wanted a true test early in the season for their offensive line, they probably couldn't have gotten a better one than the Bills. Moving on to the defense. The biggest test for the Ravens defense in the beginning of the season is if all of the moves the front office made to the secondary have paid off. The Ravens defense ranked in the bottom third of nearly every passing category through the first 10 weeks of the season last year. They turned things around only after benching Marcus Williams. But with them adding proven veteran talent at cornerback in Chidobe Awuzie and Jair Alexander, as well as drafting the talented Malachi Starks at safety to pair with Kyle Hamilton, I'm expecting a much improved unit in terms of coverage and in stopping big plays. Keeping Josh Allen in the pocket is the best way to not only test the Ravens secondary, but also keep Allen from doing damage with his legs. If the Ravens can limit Allen the way that they did last year in Week 4 in this game, it's going to be a lot harder for the Bills than it will be on the Ravens. Lamar has improved how he plays and gets his other playmakers involved more than he did earlier in his career. Allen, on the other hand, still plays the position as if he is Superman and has to do everything himself. This aspect of his game is one that the Ravens should be able to exploit with their improved secondary and pass rush. An issue that the Ravens defense has had for a while now has been their inability to deal with opponents' running back screenplays. This wasn't necessarily an issue for the Ravens the last couple of times that they faced the Bills in particular, but it is absolutely an area the Bills can try to take advantage of. Last year, Cook, Davis, and Johnson combined for 731 receiving yards on 67 receptions and 8 touchdowns. The area of the field that the Ravens have to defend the most heavily is the red zone. This may seem obvious, but the Bills were the second best team in the league at scoring touchdowns once they got inside the 20, something they did on 71.6% of their trips in there. They also happen to be the 7th best team at converting on third down and 2nd best at converting on fourth down. The Ravens are no strangers to this, as they were the 3rd best at converting on third down themselves, and the only team better than the Bills at scoring touchdowns once they got inside the 20. The best way to stop them is to get them into third and long situations early on in drives and push them to punt as much as possible. Let's take a look at some other key factors to focus on, including rookie performances. Despite the fact that most of the Ravens' veterans and starters have returned this season, there is a significant number of rookies that will already be counted on to contribute early on in the season. Malachi Starks is the most obvious, as he will be the only rookie starting on defense at the safety position. The only other rookie that's going to be starting for the Ravens this year is another of significant importance, maybe even more than Starks, and that's Tyler Loop. We saw a lot from him in preseason, and he has steadily gotten more consistent and confident throughout the process of becoming a pro, but the regular season is a different matter entirely, because unlike in the preseasons, the games actually matter here. Other rookies that could play a part in this game include Mike Green, who many fans are eager to see get more snaps on defense, wide receiver kick returner LaJohntay Wester, who will most likely be the punt returner to start the season, and both Teddy Buchanan and Aeneas Peebles, who will most likely be rotational pieces that'll come in on certain packages during the game. Offensive and defensive breakout performers. Something different I want to try this season is to pick a player on the Ravens roster for both offense and defense that I think will have a breakout performance each week. As we have no data yet for how this year's roster will perform, I'm going to have to make these picks based off of the preseason or last year's performances. For my first offensive breakout performance player of 2025, I'm going to go with the player that didn't really get a chance to shine against the Bills last season, wide receiver Zay Flowers. Not only did Zay miss the divisional game due to injury, but he wasn't very involved in the Week 4 win either, as he wasn't really needed very much with how well Derrick Henry and the run game were working. With Flowers now fully healthy and having missed the playoff game, and not having played a snap during the preseason, I would venture to guess that he's raring to go after his first 1,000-yard Pro Bowl season. My defensive breakout performer is going to be a player that was very active in both games against the Bills last year, safety Kyle Hamilton. Fresh off his record-breaking payday, I expect the best safety in football to come into 2025 playing like the best safety in football. After recording 16 combined tackles and an 8-yard fumble recovery during the previous 2 games against the Bills, I want to see Kyle dominate Sunday night. Another factor to this is that with Malachi Starks beside him, Kyle should be able to move around more freely, and with defensive coordinator Zach Orr in his second year, I expect Kyle to be deployed even more effectively in this defense. With how well Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense tends to play in season openers, and with all the hype around an improved defense that was already top 10 last year, it's easy to get carried away when trying to predict a score. I often find myself erring on the side of caution, especially when we haven't seen much from the starters in the preseason. Having said all that, I do think the Ravens start their 2025 season off with a win, beating the Bills and getting some revenge in their own stadium, winning 31-21. I'm really excited for this 2025 season, and I know all of you are as well. I'll be doing a live stream right after the game is over Sunday night to recap the game and talk about the performances of the team in its first regular season action. So please, feel free to join me right after the game. If you guys enjoyed this preview video, give it a like. Subscribe if you're new around here, and comment down below your score predictions for this first game of the Ravens 2025 season. As always, guys, stay safe out there, and go Ravens.